Hello, it's Jay. I am here for a chirpy and hairy waffle for this April 25th Monday, where I got a lot done, but I didn't get any. The major project went completely flat, which was installing an air conditioner. Where, unfortunately, at the end of the day, after I'd put in the stand and done all of that, turned out the window was wide enough, but the window was not tall enough, which really sucks. So, you get to that, you're exhausted, but you're done thing, but then you get to that, you're exhausted, and oh, I'm gonna have to return this goddamn thing tomorrow, because there's no other windows in our house that it's going to fit. That sucks. But on the good side for us in Victoria here, we've still got probably a couple of months before having our air conditioned contingencies worked out. We've got some wiggle room, so I'll get to install a different air conditioner at some point. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. What else has happened to me since my last waffle? I finished my March of the Mammoth in April, good couple of weeks ago now. A Place of Greater Safety by Hilary Mantel, her novel about the French Revolution and following the revolutionaries, Danton, Robespierre, Camille, all these fellows and various people around them, including their partners and stuff like that. Yes, Theo, yes. And it was an interesting book to read in contrast to her more mature work of the Cromwell series, which is also a historical novel and is following people that things go wrong. Things go wrong. They might think that they're right, but wow, things go wrong, and they have some rationalizations of how they go from being revolutionaries and freedom and fraternity and equality to the Great Terror, and that consuming them. But it's interesting because, I got to the end of the book and learned, oh, this is in some ways a trunk novel. It's like one of her first efforts, which she probably went back and worked on because it wasn't published until 1992. But it has hints of what will develop later, of great deep dives into the psyche and the viewpoint and the world of Cromwell. And while it's still a freaking brilliant novel, and kind of the epitome of kind of a slow burn, a slow descent from kind of idealistic revolutionaries to the idealism and the rationality and the becoming rationalization of really horrible shit. And while we're in this horrible situation, so we have to do this horrible thing, it's just unavoidable. And it being quite terrible that way. A lot of the times early in the book, I was kind of frustrated by sort of how dry it was. It becomes more involved, and I got more involved with the characters, but it took a lot longer time than it did with the Cromwell series. Even though I have to say, with the Cromwell series, the first book took me 2 reads to accept Mantel's particular slant on things. And I think that's coming in this book too. Of you get that sense of what they're revolting against, the French aristocracy, and how they're treating the majority. This little tiny little pinnacle up here is set up really well, and everyone else below is just it's not even a pyramid. It's more of it's up here, and then it's swooped down here, and then majority of the people are in abject misery and starvation and suffering. Not that I don't know if things got exceedingly better for French people, but yeah. So not a super successful March of the Mammoth, but I'm glad I read it, even if I think it might just help me appreciate Mantell's Cromwell series that much more. Also in giving me a big crash course in the French Revolution. So I did find myself doing a lot of studying around it just to kind of uh, give myself placement for where we're going, because yeah, it was so many different people, so many different events that I was doing a lot of Wikipedia research at the same time, which is not a bad thing. But I felt like I maybe was doing that more than I was doing for Cromwell. Though for the Cromwell series, I read an entire biography of Thomas Cromwell, so I did it there as well. So, if anything, historical fiction should make you more interested in the actual history, and give you a kind of a glimpse in, which it did. Yes. Other than that, oh man, I had this terrible block on doing reviews. Not that I've actually released any of them yet, but I've been trying to get better at doing reviews. And I had this whole thing of like, oh, I need to prep my reviews to try, especially that hump at the beginning where you're trying to dump all this information at the beginning to inform the reader of inform the viewer of what you're going to talk about. And I always find that horribly clunky. And I was trying different techniques, and it was making things worse. And I was having horrible block. I had a horrible anxiety attack after trying it for this one review. And then I just went, okay, screw it. I'm just gonna do the review now. I'm not gonna try all this stuff. Yes, Theo. I'm not gonna do all this stuff that I'm trying to layer on top of it. And yeah, and so I set that aside and I just did the review. Strangely enough, probably all the obsessing I'd done before put the facts squarely in my head, so I was actually able to do a review, which was like, okay, I learned something out of it, of just try and drill the very basic facts, but don't try and come up with some kind of a little witty speech at the beginning, because that's just not my style. And have an outline, refer to an outline, but little bullet points, and then just talk. And that's probably going to be the way to do things. I'm trying to improve, but it's interesting, in the process of improving you get more self-conscious and you bugger up more. Yeah. Other than that, I think that's probably good. I was really been interested in Michael K. Vaughan talking about trash or garbage fiction, and Steve Donohue's response to that. That was a really cool couple of talks. I should link those down below if I remember. If not, you've probably already watched them and enjoyed them. I think I come from it from I enjoy pulp. There's stuff that I like that I think is trashy, but I always like the stuff that I read, even if it's trashy or pulpy, I always find that like there's nuggets in there, and the stuff that I can't find nuggets in, I just don't read. So, utterly disposable fiction is kind of empty, whereas something like Michael K. Vaughan, I think, mentioned as something that he wouldn't consider trash, the Edgar Rice Burroughs Barsoom, his Martian novels with John Carter of Mars, and they are they were written as sort of disposable adventure science fiction, but they have such a compendium, to my idea, of so many different thoughts and ideas of the time, in a trashy form, in a kind of pulpily written thing, that it's like there's just so many nuggets in there. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny. I was looking at YouTube for stuff like that, and I came up with a fellow in Bogota who was a trash man who fished, I think it's a copy of Anna Karenina out of the trash, and was like, wow, this is like, an amazing book found in the trash, and maybe I can find other books. And he found more and more books, and he ended up with a library, and he ended up saying, like, the people in his community didn't have access to books, and started lending them out to him, and that's sort of developed into him creating a library for his community and for children, for people who are trying to kind of convert back to civilian life after being kind of rebel soldiers and stuff like that. And it's like those are books, whether it's Anna Karenina or anything else, that were literally thrown away, that are so valuable, that are treasures and paths to a better life for people. Just from a very just technical viewpoint, but also something like Anna Karenina, of just kind of enriching your life, both ways of things. And so literal trash books being a complete treasure to people. And I thought that was an interesting contrast to how we dismiss certain books as trash, which isn't to say I don't think there's bad books, but Steve Donnie is, okay, there's objective stuff out there. If there's good books and there's bad books, but it's interesting how one society or one culture can just casually throw stuff away, where in another culture that is a treasure, that is something that could change your life, that could put you on a better path, give you the tools, which I thought was quite an interesting contrast. All right, and that is me waffling. All right, I've been Jay. More videos later.